Okay, so at the start of 2021, I'm going to be testing out a couple of new sausage machines, and at that point I'll have some more hands-on knowledge to be able to give you about what I think is the right machine to buy. Until then, I'll link to a couple of products that I found on Amazon that may well suit you, but just remember, I haven't tested them. And whether you're buying online or in a shop, make sure you remember these tips and either check with the seller or check with the sales staff to make sure that that machine's going to suit you properly. Okay, so the first thing to think about is the size of the machine that you want. Firstly, where are you going to keep it? You know, they're not small, so you need to make sure you've got somewhere to store it. And secondly, how many sausages are you going to be making? You can purchase the sausage stuffer dependent on the amount of kilos that the barrel fits in. Mine's around 2 kilos, but ideally, if I'm going to choose another one, then I'd go for a barrel that holds about 3 kilos. Now, the build material, this is really important. The barrel, the chamber that holds the ingredients and anything that comes into contact with the food should be made out of stainless steel, and any other part on the machine, even if it's not coming into contact with food, needs to be built out of a material that's easy to clean. So the next thing to think about is the orientation of the stuffer. Do you want one that sits vertically or one that sits horizontally on the work surface? And your working space is really going to dictate that. For example, my vertical stuffer works in about a 60 square centimetre area. Now, if you were to have a horizontal stuffer, you're going to need more room on the worktop. So that's something to think very carefully about. Okay, the next thing to look at is the way these machines clamp to the work surface. This is super important. The vertical stuffer like mine normally has one big knob at the bottom that tightens up a clamp and pushes the machine against the work surface. And between the work surface and the machine, there's kind of a rubber seal to stop that slipping. Now, on the horizontal versions, you normally get two kind of G clamps that clamp that down to the work surface. But I'd be looking at something that has these physical clamps. Try to steer clear of anything that's got suction cups and no clamps, but guarantees to stay stuck to your work surface, because I promise you, you're probably going to have issues with that. Okay, so of course cleaning is super important, and we want to make sure that these machines break down easily. Certainly when you're looking at a machine that maybe can cope with 5 or 6 kilos, and they often have an outer housing, and you just want to make sure that everything comes apart easily and you can access all of the areas that need to be cleaned thoroughly. Next up, have a look at the gearing mechanism. This wants to operate nice and smoothly. It's going to have a knock-on effect to how quickly or how slowly the meat is going to come out of the machine and into the sausage casing. Next up is the piston plate. Now, this is the round disc that forces the meat into the chamber and in turn out through the nozzle and into the sausage casings. You want to make sure that this has got a nice tight fit. They're normally made out of stainless steel, food grade plastic, or indeed silicone, but you want to make sure that that seal around the edge of the disc actually fits the chamber well. Otherwise, you're going to get some sausage meat creeping its way back into the upper part of the chamber. Now, to be honest, mine does this, and it's something that I've learned to live with, but definitely something to look for when you're buying these machines. Okay, next up, nozzle selection. You want to be thinking about what you're going to be making. Chipolatas, big bangers, sausages, salamis, chorizo. You need to think about what size casing you're going to be filling so that you get the right nozzles. And if they don't come with the machine, just make sure there's something that you can buy separately. So the next thing to consider is how those nozzles lock into the chamber. Now, mine just kind of twist in and they don't lock too securely. Now, that can be a bit of a pain. I have had a couple of nozzles come off during the piping process, and it's just a nightmare and something that can be avoided. So my advice would be to check for ones that lock in nice and tightly, or have a disc or a ring that goes over the top of the nozzle and then screws on, holding it tightly in place. And my last point is just make sure that you can get replacement parts if needed. I mean, I haven't had to replace anything on mine at the moment, but maybe I'll need some nozzles in the future. I don't know, but just make sure that it's a good company that can do replacement parts if needed. Now, my sausage machine is definitely on the budget end of the market, that's for sure, but to be fair, it's cranked out numerous kilos of sausages. But if you follow the advice in this video, it's going to put you on the right road to choosing the right machine for you. And that just leaves me to say a huge thank you for watching. I really hope this has been useful for you. I'll see you again very soon. Stay tuned.